We have a quorum now, so let's call the meeting to order. And Representative Welch, if you'd like to present your substitute to Senate Bill 163.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Members of the Health and Human Services Committee, you should have LC 33-5229S is the substitute that we're working off up here.
Wait a minute, would you read that?
No.
Okay.
Can you get a microphone?
Okay. Which LC do you have?
This is 5229S.
Have you sent us one that we don't have a copy of?
No, ma'am.
I'll go make copies.
Okay, we're going to have to, that we didn't get. Okay, we don't have the right copy. Okay, we're fixing to get them right now.
And while that's being done, I can tell you what the bill is about. And
Well, let me just let Representative Kelly go, so don't confuse people. Okay, if you'll step back and wait.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, there's Representative Kelly. I apologize. I don't know whether most of you know, but Joyce Norwood, our secretary, is out sick. She's been gone now for about 10 days. So apparently we didn't get the right thing, and I will take that responsibility on herself, so I apologize for the delay. Okay, Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I come before you with a resolution I think won't take much time today. It's simply a urging resolution to Congress that we oppose any new tax that would come on our Medicare Part D drug plan.
And you're working off LC, what are you working
100-0435.
And that's House Resolution 760. Okay.
As many of you know, Medicare Part D is a prescription drug plan for our seniors. It's been extremely successful since its implementation, and it's came in 45% under our initial projections by the CBO. And what this will do is just show our federally elected officials that the state officials here in Georgia are supportive of the current Medicare Part D, and that we don't feel that our seniors should have a tax placed on them that could be up to the $716 billion.
Questions for the representative?
Of course, currently we don't have any sales tax in Georgia on prescription drugs. But this would be an excise tax. Is that what you would say would be?
What I'm saying this would be is there's been several members of Congress in D.C. talking about a rebate program to be implemented instead of the current form that's under Medicare Part D that would essentially create a tax for our seniors there.
Here. Nikki. Nikki's. We'll get you one, Nikki. Any other questions for the committee? Okay, the committee's stance. All right, you've got a question?
Madam Chair, at the appropriate time, I make a motion.
This is the appropriate time.
Thank you. I move to pass.
Okay, we have a due pass and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing the discussion, everyone in favor of the passage of House Resolution 760, LC 100-0435, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. We're in, to the new people that have come in, we're in a stance, we have to get the right copy of a bill. And it's being copied right now. I wonder how far Sarah had to go to get it. Okay, Representative Welch, go ahead and do you know what the differences are between the LC that we have? Are they major differences?
No, ma'am. There should not be major differences. There's some change that we made this morning after talking to interested parties.
Okay. All right, if you'd like, we have the substitute, we have one substitute to House Bill 163, that's LC 335223. If we want to hit the highlights of the bill so we can get into discussion, and we'll tell you if changes when we get the right version of it. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. The first section, let me just give you an overarching, in 2012, the Congress passed and the President signed into legislation some reform legislation called the 2012 Middle Class Tax Relief Act. In that legislation, it said that the states must implement policies and procedures to prohibit the use of EBT cards, electronic benefit transfer cards, on which TANF funds are located, which is your temporary assistance for needy families. And the states must prohibit the use of those cards at liquor stores, in adult entertainment establishments, and casinos. Section 1 of the bill deals with this under subparagraph A, implements the federal language from that particular enactment. We don't have casinos in Georgia, so I did not include that language in the bill. In addition, many states, I think it's approximately 20 states, have taken various steps to further regulate the use of EBT cards in establishments for items, the purchase of items that are not really necessary to the benefit of the family. On the second page, a list under subparagraph B, a list of items that we have enumerated that the EBT cards could not be used to purchase, and that includes lottery tickets, alcohol beverages, tobacco products, pornographic materials, firearms and ammunition, vacation services, tattoos and body piercing, gambling, gift cards, jewelry, salon services, gambling, gift cards, or the payment to the government for fines and penalties.
Representative Welch, are there any changes in the new version when we get it to that list?
No, they're not.
Okay.
And then on subparagraph C, this is where we start to see a restructuring of the bill. But subparagraph C deals with the establishment of a toll-free hotline that people can call and report where they see someone actually using the cards in a fraudulent manner or misuse of the money. So they can call a toll-free number. This would establish a website where you can download photographs if you wish. The department already has a toll-free number, so this will be just a publication of the toll-free number. They will have to establish a website. They have the website, they'll just have to add a page to it to download the information. This will facilitate individuals in the public being the eyes and ears of the state to watch for fraudulent use of the cards. Thereafter, you have a requirement placed on the retailer to duly notify the public of what can and cannot be bought with these cards, and posting of the website and the telephone number on a sign. The legislation you have in front of you says that the sign must be located at every point of service, a point of sale. We have since amended that so that it will not be at a point of sale, it will actually be at the entrance, and that's what Chairman Chanel's amendment does to the LC number that I have that you do not have. But it actually be on the door. So when you walk into the store, and this was a concern for large retailers that have many points of sales to put up these signs, and being sympathetic to that and having several representatives speak to me about this and other members, it occurred to me that this was probably a bit too much, using a bazooka to kill a flea instead of some spray. So with that being done, what we did was we've now just put a sign at the front door, so when you walk in, it'll say that. In addition to it, there are investigation requirements that are there, and they're handing out the bill now, so I'll pause right there so you can see.
Did we get enough? Okay. I hope. Thanks.
Sarah, thank you.
It's coming, Nikki.
Thanks, Jim. So on
The right
on
LC.
page 2,
That's the right LC. Don. It's that one. Okay.
on page 2, you'll see that section C1 that I've just explained. C2A states that none of these implementations will come into effect till April 1st of 2014. So there's a whole year to allow this system to come into place before it starts affecting anyone directly. You'll see that what's required of the retailer under 2A, and then under 2B, if the retailer doesn't accept the DBT card, then it doesn't matter. Then those requirements don't apply. On page 3, you'll see that the department is required to monitor the telephone calls and the website, and then investigate fraudulent, what have been perceived as fraudulent transactions. Under D1, if there's a violation, the department can set up rules and penalties, and that we want the fines to be applied to the enforcement of this enactment. At least that's the intention. On Part E, this goes into contracts. If the department is entering into any contracts in the future with a vendor for the EBT cards, then they're going to have to make sure the contract marries with this code section. Part F specifies what the cards must do in terms of the security, and you'll see there that you put the transfer on the card, the money will be on the card. The board can decide what other assistance will be on the card. Have to have a photo on the card, a signature on the card, and print the statement of what are the prohibited purchases on the card. You will not be able to use the card at automated teller machines. That will be blocked. There will be a mechanism to trigger a prohibition on the items that you cannot buy with it, such as alcohol, pornographic materials. And it would not be a debit card. It would simply be the current EBT card. There's a report back to the Senate and the House on how they're implementing this, and that's pretty much the bill. So it's designed to create those levels of regulation.
Okay. Representative Randall.
Thank you, Madam-
Questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am wondering, and I may have them confused, but there are separate cards. The SNAP card is different from the EBT, right?
Actually, it's all downloaded into the same card now, and that's what. So what I wanted to do is separate the TANF money from the SNAP money, because the SNAP money already has certain limitations on what it can be used. That's exactly a good question.
Which brings on my second question. This section 2, where it talks about electronic funds, automated selling machines. Now, how will they access cash for like utilities and those items like washing powder and stuff that can't be bought with SNAP funds, like just general around the house stuff that can't be purchased? How will they purchase that if they can't get cash and they can't use the card?
You can use the card in the establishment, so you can still use the card as it is. You can purchase all those items just as you would at the retailer. Plus, at the point of sale, like with your current EBT card, you can actually withdraw the cash right there at the grocery store or at the point of sale. So that doesn't change. All that remains the same.
But most point of sales, there's a limit on how much cash back you can get. So what if I got to pay my light bill? That's $200.
Then you can also go to the bank and withdraw at the bank.
So, tell me the difference between the bank and an automated teller. I mean, if you're still accessing cash that's yours, that off of your card, what's the difference other than the inconvenience of, if I want to pay my light bill early in the morning and I want to get the cash that evening, I've got to wait till the bank opens before I go and pay my cash. But if I had access to the ATM, then I could get that cash and go and pay my bill while I have a ride. After somebody takes my child to school, then since I have a ride, then I can go ahead and stop by and pay my electric bill. The convenience of an ATM is just what it is, the convenience of an ATM.
That's exactly. There are two points. One is that the money is the taxpayers' money, and we owe a fiduciary duty to make sure that that's being spent to actually help the families. So, secondarily, as far as why would you want to go to the bank and why am I making it that way, it is to ensure that every transaction with the card is with a person and there's a level of accountability. That's why I'm actually requiring the photograph of the recipient to be on the card, so that what is happening now is you are having people that are handing the card off to another person to be utilized. You're having folks come into grocery stores and buying large amounts of groceries. On the SNAP side, they're actually using it to buy a large amount of groceries and then reselling the groceries and taking cash back on the groceries at a lower rate. So we're seeing a large amount of fraud with the transfer of the cards. A photo on the card and forcing someone to actually interact should make it less convenient, yes, but it should actually enhance the security and the lack of abuse of the money.
I still think that we're trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer here, because you and I know, and I don't know if you've ever, I've had I consider it a blessing to have worked in the system. And I know that there are a lot of people, especially in areas where there isn't much transportation. Like in my area, it's not a problem. We have a bus, we have some taxis.
Yes, ma'am.
But in those areas where people have to depend on a ride when they can get a ride, I think this is going to hurt them tremendously, trying to fix a problem that I don't think is major. But then again, on the backside of that is that, there are some folks that are just not going to do right.
That's true.
And there's nothing we can do to fix that. People that intend to do wrong are going to find a way around this as well. But in the meantime, we're hurting some folks, especially in rural areas, where they get a ride or they get emergency transportation once a week to the doctor. And some of those folks are kind enough to drop them by the grocery store or by the bank.
Who's got a copy?
But those that don't have that ability, and if they can only go in the evening when the bank is closed, and some of those banks close at 3 o'clock in rural areas. Even in Macon, they close, some of them close at 4. If my ride doesn't get out till 5 o'clock, then I don't have access to money, and if my light bill is due. And I think it's overkill, this ATM thing. I do agree having a photo on it. I think that's a good thing. But I think we have to consider people that do not live in metro areas, that do not live in that do not have access to transportation. And I think this is going to be bad for them. I think it's going to. I think it's. I think we're causing more of a problem than fixing a problem. The rest of the bill I think is fine, but that bothers me. The access that the issues that we're going to create here.
Representative Randall and my suite mate, I really do appreciate the sincerity in which you're communicating this to me. And this has been a debate. We had a public hearing on this matter in Governmental Affairs Committee. It was voted out unanimously to go to full committee. What has happened is that we are learning that there are attempts to go to a full debit card, and a full debit card would mean that there would not be a way to regulate it. It would just be a Visa, MasterCard. You could use it anywhere for any purpose. There would be no regulations whatsoever. So we're headed down a path that's actually loosening the regulations as opposed to enforcing them. And I do hear your concern. The problem is that we have a huge loophole if you can use the card at ATMs to just withdraw tremendous amounts of cash, all the cash, and then use that for the purposes for which it's not intended. So I am trying to make it less convenient, that's true. But that is the nature of the bill, and that was the method that I thought was the best way to do it.
Representative Welch, we've got other questions. Representative Clark.
Yes, ma'am.
My question was, you said you removed the card from the cash register on the door. I didn't see that on here. Am I missing that?
It's amendment. It's going to be an amendment.
Oh, it's going to be an amendment. You're on.
Right, amendment to the substitute.
Yes, we have an amendment.
Representative Pack.
Representative Wells, thank you so much for bringing the bill. I do think that this program does anticipate a lot of fraud in there. My question is threefold. One, in lines 21 to 23, thinking this out, is the provision of required establishment of liquor stores and retail establishments to prevent access to cash systems to electronic fund transaction and automatic teller machine. I'm thinking about logistically how the liquor store and the establishment would do that, because my understanding is ATMs are provided by contractors, and practically I'm not quite sure how they would comply with that law.
Well, actually, Representative Pack, if we have a few amendments to the bill, and we've been working diligently over the last 5 days to try and adjust this for both the retailers and those interested in the fraud prevention, as well as trying to take into account the purpose of the bill. This, if you allow for the language to be in there, as I've said, to prevent the use at ATMs, then lines 21 through 23, I think, would be superfluous. If you can't use the card in an ATM, then there's no need to worry about it being utilized at any one of those places, because they can't use it at the ATM. That makes sense. So we wouldn't need those lines.
I mean, is it technologically possible to allow some ATMs to take these cards and others not?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Everything's just an electronic strip, right?
Yes.
I'm not quite sure if that technology is there to do it.
We can't actually block the signal. Texas is doing this now. Texas is blocking all transactions at the ATM. So I don't think you can be code specific relevant to the type of establishment where an ATM is located. And if an ATM is picked up and moved, then that's just more tracking and more administration to try and locate that ATM and associate it with that particular unit. California tried to do that, and it became an administrative nightmare that they could not implement. So that's why I'm doing a wholesale block.
Okay. Other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
64 to 70. Section 08, the investigators review the entrepreneur and receipts of establishments. You're investigating the retail establishment, also running the Fourth Amendment issue.
Well, wouldn't you run it into any kind of investigation with the Fourth Amendment?
Well, but there's no, like a warrant provision in here. You're saying that they have to turn that stuff over?
But this would be part of
An allegation from the toll-free number? Am I reading that wrong?
Well, the bill does provide for the department to make those rules that should be put in place to enforce the bill. So that's in a different provision.
And third, line 107 has a report requirement from December 31st of 2013. That echoes, which looks like rest of the bill goes into section 40.
I'm sorry, line.
What?
107.
So 107 says no later than end of this year you have to make the report.
No, that's intentional. The dates are set up so that if there are better mechanisms than what we are putting together in this bill, I want to know that before the legislative session next session. So if we need to revisit the bill to make adjustments, it does not fully become effective until April 1st of next year. So that is actually designed that way.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Representative Kaiser.
Representative Welch, who is the department in this bill?
The department is defined under the particular title and chapter as being the Department of Human Services.
Okay, I didn't see that.
No, ma'am, you wouldn't have it if you have to go to the chapter.
Okay, tell me again, it's department what?
Human Services.
And so I guess I'm concerned because on line 107 where you're talking about providing a report to the Speaker of the House, is that the department providing that report?
The department shall provide a report to the Speaker, yes.
Okay, and does the department have the staff, and are we providing any mechanism by which they can do this financially or otherwise?
We've talked with the department at length. Yes, and I've talked to the department at length, and they attended the public hearing that we had held. This was House Bill 138. Previously, it's been since changed in the substitute. I've changed it to try and recognize the problems that the department identified, some concerns that they had with the bill, as well as with those that attended the meeting. And we have a firm letter from them that they're going to report back to us as soon as July 1st with mechanisms that they believe that they can implement. The department has stated in a letter from the commissioner that he is fully supportive of reducing fraud and minimizing fraud. And in that vein, they've actually implemented a policy of simply mailing a letter to the recipients of the benefits that specify you cannot use it for many of the same purposes that I've listed in the bill. Actually, a few other ones that are not listed in the bill. So they're already starting some of that, so we're codifying some of the policies that they're implementing, but the policies themselves don't have the force of law.
And did your, Madam Chair, if I can follow up, did your small business retail establishments?
Well,
Yes.
Was this in House Bill 138?
No, it's governmental affairs and governmental affairs.
any more questions? Okay. Representative Watson.
I'd like to entertain a motion to pass with as amended.
Second.
When we,
Or do we need to do
yeah,
the
just do,
amendment first?
just do, you recommend do pass. If I got a second?
To pass the
Second.
committee substitute as amended.
Wait a minute, we're coming back to this. We're just going to take the amendments. Okay. Mickey, you're on with the amendments, and then we're going to hear the amendments, and then I'll take people that want to testify people that want to comment on it can comment on it, but let us do the amendments to see if that answers any questions for anybody. Okay, go, Mickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My speech, amendments printed on your desk is AM 331357. And I'm coming from this bill as a retailer, and it has to do with process, not the substance of the bill. And I appreciate well working with us on that. The first one, on line 3 and 4, that puts the date of April 1, 2014 in there before this starts. That's because the retailer couldn't just magically make this happen overnight. It gives them a little time to implement it. And then lines 6 and 7 of the proposed amendment provides the following location at each entrance or sign. The original bill had it on the cash registers. The cash register area is profitable part of the grocery store, and Attorney Wells graciously agreed not to put them flat on the entrance door. And Madam Chair, this is a little unusual here, but lines 9, 10, and 11 need to be stricken. The author of the bill will be offering an amendment that does the same thing and works better than that. So ignore 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Your discussion on the first two portions of the amendments offered by President Schmidt. The question is, do you have a motion? Second? Motion second. Everybody in favor? The first two portions of the Chanel amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Those are not.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, repeat left.
And just to piggyback right off of Chairman Chanel, if you look at line 67, the proposed amendment I have here to address his concerns and the concerns of others that have spoken to me about the bill. Line 67, if you would, where it says recipients for the violations of this code section, we insert a period there and strike the remaining portion of the sentence. And then I have another amendment as well. For violations of this code section, period, and then strike the remainder. I'm sorry, you strike the remainder of that line, strike the line 68, 69, and 70. Okay, and then the second is on lines 34 and 35 to remove jewelry and salon services from the list of prohibited transactions. And that is coming from some of our large retailers having a difficulty defining jewelry and then salon services, and without burdening the movement of the bill, I've been willing to strike those two items. Strike. Yes, ma'am.
To the author of the bill, I thank you for allowing me to co-sponsor it. Did you want to insert Chairman Chanel's 9, 10, and 11 on the lines that you struck on 67, 68, 69?
We had discussed doing that, but striking this language is actually more beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you give us a scenario why we're leave salon services, why we're taking it out?
It has to do with, we're doing two things. One, we're trying to make it fairly easy for the retail establishment to enforce. So defining salon services may vary from a haircut to a manicure. There's a legitimate argument that that a person that is using TANF benefits might need to actually get ready for an interview and a job interview, and that's what we do want to have happen. The other side of, but we don't want to get, we don't want to get defining pedicures and manicures and all that kind of stuff. We start to go down a rabbit hole that we'll never get out of. Secondarily, if we're going to code the card to bar that kind of purchase, it becomes difficult to do that. So it's both a practical and it's really a practical issue.
Can I just ask a more substantive question? It's not related to the.
Now let's take care of this.
Okay.
Any other questions about it? Do I hear a motion on the two changes made by Representative Ruff? Second, everybody in favor say aye. Anybody opposed, say no. Okay. Okay, President.
I just need some further clarification on, when we're talking about temporary assistance, how long is that assistance provided for?
In the state of Georgia, I believe it's 40 months. Let me double check that. I'll double check that, but it's about.
And doesn't it require, this TANF doesn't require both recipients, if there's if they're two-parent household, that both parents are working? I guess I'm just trying to figure out where this came from. Is there a huge amount of abuse by retailers or by these needy families?
Yes, ma'am. The department, you may recall that 11 Alive did an expose about a year ago, and in that they went around and found that there were some over 1,000 different transactions that occurred using the EBT cards at alcohol establishments, adult entertainment establishments, and tobacco purveyors. So they were just looking at the federal law to begin with and those prohibited purchases. And those items, they found just in 1 year, looking back, that number of transactions that have occurred, resulting in, I think it was 800 purchases at liquor stores, over 800, and then 200 at another, and 40 at the tobacco. And that's what kind of started people thinking, well, why are we allowing money that should be going to better the children of a family or to better the individual so that individual can get a job and get back into the working society? Why are we allowing that money, that public assistance that we're supposed to be the fiduciaries of, why are we letting that go for tobacco and alcohol and strip joints? And that was the basic question. And I can provide you with all that information that I have from the department, and that was from the department. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Anybody's questions? Do we have people looking to sign up? Kathy Ford.
I'm Kathy Floyd, the State Legislative Director for AARP Georgia. I have no problems with most of the bill. It's just the line 101 about using the ATM machines. Because of the working requirements with TANF benefits, a lot of our TANF beneficiaries now in Georgia are grandparents raising grandchildren. So those folks, we're making it more difficult for them to get their TANF benefits if it's totally limited to banking hours in a bank that they have to get transportation to get to. And these are grandparents that are really helping us because they are raising these children instead of them going into a system where the state has to pay with the foster parents and everything. So the grandparents are really helping out because the parents have bailed out for whatever reason, drugs or prison or whatever, and we're making it really hard for them to get their TANF benefits. So they may have rent due to a private individual, so they've got to get cash out some way or another. They're not all electronic society the way most of us in here are. So that's my concern. I wouldn't want to penalize these grandparents that are actually helping out. And then I had a further question. I know that the state is starting a contract with Xerox for the TANF benefits, and I didn't know how this would impact, because they're separating the SNAP benefits from the TANF benefits. So I didn't know how this would impact.
Do you see that contract, ma'am, if you don't mind? Do you see that contract? I'd love to have your basis of knowledge for knowing that that contract's up and what effect that would have on elderly citizens and grandparents.
The Xerox. I've just been informed that that's happening.
Who informed you of that?
The Department of Human Services.
Okay, so the Xerox, you said, was mentioned by name?
Yep.
Thank you. Sure.
And that reason is why the haste in bringing this to you today.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'm representing Families First today. I'm really just concerned about the practicalities of not having access to an ATM. As Ms. Floyd said, and as Representative Randall said, in a lot of areas of the state, we really don't have ready access to banks at all. People who don't have transportation, the banking hours are what the banking hours are. A lot of the folks who are taking care of the children also are disabled and have very specific kinds of problems getting access even to the grocery store sometimes. In addition to the physical access to the banks, I'm not certain that banks are going to let people get their cash that they need to be able to pay the rent or to pay the doctor's co-payments and to pay the utilities, that are not really set up to take EBT cards. If people don't have accounts with the bank, I know that that's often a problem, and a lot of people with very low incomes actually don't have bank accounts at all, can't afford them. In addition, I've talked with the author about this too, and there is the possibility that the grocery stores would let people get cash, when they're making their purchases. But my grocery store limits me to, something like $50, something like that, which would mean that if I'm trying to pay my rent, I would have to go back several times and make several purchases in order to be able to get enough cash to do that. So again, just really concerned about that issue. Nobody wants people spending money in massage parlors or whatever. But we would definitely like to see some sort of change made to make it feasible for people to get cash from ATMs like the rest of us do to make those legitimate purchases or payments. Anyone else want to speak?
Well, I'm just curious. I'm always one. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Has this been tried in other areas? Other states? Do we have success stories?
We have. Texas is banning the use of the cards at ATMs, and California attempted to regulate this by doing the site-specific regulation with ATMs at retail establishments, but that was a failure. This is, all the states have now started to implement this as a result of the act that I mentioned, the Middle Class Tax Relief Act in 2012. So all states are trying a different approach as they see fit within their jurisdiction to best regulate the use. So everything is somewhat novel other than what I'm telling you about these particular jurisdictions. The list that you have here, I think, came from the state of Minnesota, I believe, has a very, as a similar comprehensive list to this list that I have before you on page 2. I may be mistaken about the state, but other states, and I think Massachusetts was another one. But I have to go back in my file to check those. But states are trying this, but everybody's trying it to some extent for the first time.
Has any state banned the use of the ATM cards and been successful?
Well, Texas is doing it now, but defined by success meaning that you stop the flow. Yes.
I mean, the people can still function.
Yes.
And get the money they need.
Yes.
Without great inconvenience.
I think there will be inconvenience. I'm not dismissing that. I think that is a concern. But again, we are trying to be good fiduciaries of the public's dollars, and I think the inconvenience should be there.
Stands we have a motion for the bill in second, we now amended it. So, is there any other discussion?
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Have you heard from the department and their ability to be able to take this on to do this additional fraud investigation without it being a problem?
Yes, they already do this as a part of they're mandated to do fraud prevention. They already have a hotline number set up, so we're just piggybacking on that. The additional requirement will be a web page that you can download photographs if you think someone is abusing the system.
But they have to go out and investigate that.
They do, and they have investigators to do that.
This won't burden them because you have this new set of eyes and ears out looking for this stuff. It should get inundated with the number based on the 11-line story that most people are ignoring.
Yes, sir. It would. You're right. It would actually, because of the eyes and ears that we're asking the public and trying to make them more aware of it, it actually would increase the number of reports made. But the language of the bill says that on page, and Ms. Randall has it, but I'm sorry. It says that the investigators shall be authorized to investigate the establishments and the recipients. So they'll still exercise discretion as to whether they're going to go forward with that investigation. We may not, but I'm certainly hoping that the intention will be that we actually capture the folks that are engaging in this, and they go through the administrative process that exists. Did you see that?
Senate Bill 160, the subject bill, Senate Bill 163, and that's C 525229 as amended. Everyone in favor of the passage? The subject is Senate Bill 163 as amended. Just raise your hand, please.
Well, I'm going to wait till tomorrow, as you indicated.
Okay, we may have a brief meeting tomorrow. Once again, because we're running with intern staff, we're not letting somebody know about the House resolution, so we can have a brief meeting on
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.